Hey guys, Delworth here, bringing you another rapid fire style review, this time for the FPS bullet hell Mother Gunship. Mother Gunship is an indie game developed by both Grip Digital and Terrible Posture Games. Mother Gunship is very easy to summarize. You pilot a giant mech suit trying to destroy an alien invading force in space with massive weapons and devices you craft yourself throughout missions, fighting randomly generated rooms of enemies in a roguelike environment. Game promises constant customization, constant challenge, and a promising story. However, I found through my play that these things may not live entirely up to what's claimed, so let's break it down. First, let's get into talking about the game's graphics. I actually really like the design they took with the game's visuals. It's a definite callback to older retro games' color palettes mixed with modern design quality. This, to me, was an extremely pleasant combo that never felt like too much and mixed very well with the game's bullet storm play. I was able to see where enemies were shooting from, follow their projectiles, and always knew what was going on through the color variances. I also never had any major FPS drops, even when there were several dozen enemies firing walls upon walls of bullets in my general direction. Visuals on all the firing effects and the plethora of different types of projectiles were satisfying, and they were a definite plus for the game. I could tell that the devs took special care in making sure that every weapon had a unique look, effect, and style. I appreciated that quite a bit. Technically, with Mother Gunship, I had zero crashes, zero bugs, or zero issues, and given the last few games I reviewed being far bigger production budget and still having those issues, I gotta commend them on shipping a technically sound title. Mother Gunship's story involves you, a soldier, being one of the last few uncaptured humans fighting against an alien robotic AR Armada that has shown up and or killed everyone else than the rest of humanity. You pilot a giant upgradable mech suit that can craft its own weapons and has enough defense to be able to invade these ships and fight through swarms of enemies to detonate them. I actually found the writing in the game for the story section to be great. The characters introduced and the cast of the entire thing making me laugh quite a few times throughout my playthrough. It was a good callback to early Borderlands humor, but it wasn't over the top and I enjoyed that greatly. The length of the story, though, was a definite problem. I was incredibly disappointed in completing the story, as the actual story part of the game is only about 3 hours long if you don't do any of the side missions that present themselves, and these side missions are little bonus things that don't have any impact or extra story added to them. Guess the best way to put it is that the game ramps up to a payoff and then leaves you flat and wanting, even making a joke about needing more budget to complete their game and add more content to it. I was not satisfied by the end of the story, and honestly, I was so disappointed in it that it hurt my drive to even continue playing through the actual game itself. It just fell so short, and I really wish they would have put more content into the story. What little there was good, which is why it pissed me off so much when it ended so abruptly, so half-assedly, and remarked about needing more money for design. I respect indie devs for doing what they can with what they got, but it probably could have been handled better to lessen that impact. So you gotta ask now, well, if the story was disappointing, how was the actual gameplay of the game throughout your run, Del? Well, the major appeal of the game and is the ability to craft and make outrageously designed weapons with multiple parts doing crazy things through extra attachments. The idea is that you progress through and get your parts to constantly be making incredible weapons that turn you into a bullet storm of death and counter the enemy's bullet storms of death. Parts include things like connectors and links, which are module bars / slots to add more guns and upgrades, the barrels, which are the guns themselves, and the upgrades like ricochet mods, crit mods, slow fields, etc., etc. And there's absolutely no small number of them for you to choose from. There were a lot in this game. However, outside of the infinite mode at the end of the game, this design never really lives up to what it was advertised to be. First, there are limitations in missions and how many parts you can bring into the level, rendering your vast arsenal of weapons that you have relatively useless. Most levels will allow you to take in up to 5 parts at max, really limiting the use of things that you've already acquired. Furthermore, since the game is entirely roguelike, the number of stores, money you get to buy parts in missions, and weapons or parts available fluctuates like crazy. I'm not sure if I got horrible luck through my playthrough, but most of my runs in my missions consisted of me using the same or 2 or 3 barrels, which are the guns, through entire levels and never really being able to upgrade them. There are bonus rooms that you could do, such as a roll the dice, which randomizes enemies in the environment, or a challenge room that has you complete a specific criteria, but again, due to this being a roguelike layout, most of the time you're not rewarded appropriately for your actions. Honestly, it was extremely disappointing to be hyped up to build these massive guns with the parts I got, but I was never able to do so. I feel like the developers should have definitely increased the limit on parts you're allowed to bring in to 10 to 20 and insanely pumped up the difficulty to compensate. It's also worth mentioning that when you die, you lose the parts you brought in and or acquired, but since you're only bringing in a handful at a time, you don't really take away from that stock that you've acquired of dozens. As a side note to upgrades, you're also able to upgrade your mech suit and improve things such as running speed, energy regen, starting health, etc. through experience, which was kind of nifty, but didn't make that much of an impact on my playthrough. Another majorly disappointing thing was the bosses. They were advertised as these crazy things with lots of thought and effort put into them, but at the end of the day, they felt like mindless bullet sponges without a lot of effort required to slay them. The final boss of the story only hit me a handful of times and was melted by a really low level combination of weapons. I, at no point, felt like any of these bosses were a threat and very quickly found places I could stand and seemingly was able to fight them without ever getting hit. I understand that this was an indie developer, but what was advertised was not what the game ended up being to me. I can see a lot of promise in this game for future DLCs and expansions, which they've already stated straight up in the game that they are coming, but as of right now, I feel as if there was a lot more they could have done or less they could have restricted to make it better. I really see potential here, and I want it to get better. At the price tag of $25, it by no means is a ripoff, and that price I think is completely fair, and I'm excited to see what they do with it in the future. Given everything all together, I'm going to end this review by giving Mother Gunship a score of 6 out of 10. It's above average, with hopes to see it improve in the future and possibly boost that up to a 7 or even an 8. There's a lot of promise, and it can only get better from here. Anyway guys, that's going to be it for this rapid fire review. If you like the content on this channel made by Joe or myself, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber, hit that bell to get notifications when new videos are posted. See you guys in the next rapid fire review. Bye!